I was a gangster. I was moving guns, drugs, and money. And now I help people heal with light. That's what today's guest, Jerry, told me. And he went from organized crime to energy healing. And this is one of the wildest transformations that you'll ever hear. Most people don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to channel healing light from God or the universe. But after a near-death experience in a car crash, Jerry Sargeant's life changed forever. Hey, friend, it's George, and you're really in for something different today. This conversation is going to stretch your mind, challenge your beliefs, and maybe, and just maybe, open you up to something deeper, because Jerry's story is wild and it's real. And there's something in it for everyone. It doesn't matter how logical, analytical, or skeptical that you might be. This one is a worthwhile listen, is the word that I will use. And if you're new here, welcome to the Mind of George show. This is where we go beyond the surface level business tactics and strategies, but we talk about alignment, we talk about truth, and we talk about the invisible game behind it all. And so whether you're here for mindset, marketing, or even sometimes miracles, because we've heard them, you belong here. And in today's episode, Jerry shares his journey from being a gangster, moving money and weapons around the world, to becoming one of the most well-known energy healers on the planet. We talk about his near-death experience, the moment that shifted everything, and how he became, how he began unlocking healing for others, talking about light and frequency and truth. But more than that, we talk about us as individuals, what we can do from this episode, how we can, for lack of better terms, reclaim our power to heal or to transform or to reconnect with who we really are. And Jerry is literally globally known as the Facilitator of Healing. He's a speaker and energy healer, and his story has inspired thousands and thousands across the world. And it's not just because of his dramatic past, but most importantly, because of the transformation that he's facilitated in others. He's seen everything from healing chronic illness to releasing trauma. He's been featured in so many international publications, and his events sell out around the world. I would submit that what makes him powerful isn't just the results, but it's his truth. And I think we live in a world now where most of us accidentally walk around disconnected. We think healing has to be hard. We think trauma is something that we carry forever. We think transformation takes years. But what if it could be instantaneous? And what if we're closer than we actually think? Because we break it all down, from how a car crash ripped Jerry and his body, but somehow magically rewired his soul, what energy healing really is and why it's not as, quote, woo-woo as you think, and how to unlock healing in your life at every single level, even if you've tried everything. In this episode, it's raw, it's real, and I think the word I would use is otherworldly. And so take a deep breath and let's get into the show. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George show. And just to be in transparency, I have to preemptively say this. We have not recorded this yet. We are about to start the conversation, but I promise you, with the amount of resistance technologically that went into preventing this show from hitting record, it is going to be a doozy and it's going to be loaded. And I'm incredibly honored, also humbled, and excited to have today's guest. He is the founder of something that's been blowing my mind since he came across my radar, called Star Magic Healing. And he is an incredible leader that has not only walked the walk, but everything that he talks about, he's lived and experienced based on everything that I found. He has been through this turbulent life of chaos and crime, to having a near-death experience, to now is traveling the world and building healing centers to help leaders like me and you basically grow into the best versions of ourselves, but not by doing what everybody is taught in the current world, which is go learn this or go learn this, but instead to come home and remember. And so he helps leaders and light workers and coaches clear deep trauma to basically expand your frequency and your ability to navigate and operate from this place of sovereignty or power. And I love it. He has books, he has retreats. I've met his team and found out today that some of his team lives up the street from me in Montana. So this has to be a sign from God that we are here. And he's on this mission to wake people up to the power that they already have inside of them. And so I am incredibly honored, humbled, and excited to have Jerry on the show. So, Jerry, welcome to the show, brother.
Brother, thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here, George. Real pleasure.
Yeah, man, I love it. Spiritual gangster in the background, and one love, one heart, one human, and family on the t-shirt. I feel like we are in for a good one today.
Yeah, I mean, just from chatting to you beforehand and feeling the vibration and the synchronicities. And, when you said to me, we're here to remember, and that's what we've kind of always said from day one, there's nothing we can really teach you. And I realize, this journey that I've been on and the journey that I've seen so many of my sisters and brothers go on, they're just walking through life and just bumping into a bunch of mirrors and reflections and triggers, and everything is just boom, 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 boom. Go this way, go that way. But all of those ways and all of those routes and all of those paths are all in the same direction, back into the heart, back into the soul, because we have all of the answers to all of the questions inside of us. So, I came from a very different life, and I'm living the life that I live now. And I realized that nobody ever taught me along the way. They just pointed things out to me, and it was like a light bulb here and a light bulb there. And it's like, man, I've just known this for eons. I've known this for billions of years. Like, this isn't something new. And you get this kind of, this kind of frequency shift, and this resonance from within kind of rises and amplifies, and it just starts cutting through the and just blazing through the illusion. And you realize that you're all of this stuff all along, and then no one can teach you anything. They can just help you remember. And so I've always come out and said, I'm here to help you remember. Everything I know, everything I know. And all we can do is just, point the little bits and pieces out that we've forgotten, raise our frequency and be better humans,
Man, I love that. It was a thing when I was even connecting with your team before we did this that resonated the deepest for me as somebody who spent 20 plus years of my life, quote unquote, chasing healing, and ended up, sitting on my hands being like, oh, I had access to all of this, but I was like avoiding remembering. And I love the way that you frame like we get to help people remember. And one of the other things that I love based on everything that I've seen and the content that I've consumed is kind of your like no fluff, like, hey, here's the truth, take it or leave it. I'm here to be honest and I'm here to love you and, give you some truth to unpack and examine that I love. And I had a question come up when you were sharing that. This thing and this like inner knowing that we have, something I think you found and experienced, but also me. I lived in this part of my life with so much dissonance where there was this inner knowing, but there was this like logical denial of it where I'm like, no, that can't be it. Like, nope, don't want to do that thing. Or nope, want to avoid looking in that mirror. Why do you think it is that people bump up against that so often?
It's hard to see the truth when you've been
Mm.
fed lies all of your life, and you've built this identity based on a false set of illusions and a false set of teachings. They send us to school to teach us stuff, to indoctrinate us stuff, to lead us down a road that is never really going to serve us. It's only going to serve the system. And the only way we can really create something new is to dive into our hearts and unleash the beast, unleash the weapon of sovereignty that we are, and step into our full superhuman potential.
Mm.
I think this vulnerability and authenticity are like so mission critical. And like you were saying, like you've looked into what I do, and it's all about authenticity, and that's what where you're coming from. It's about authentic leadership, but also being vulnerable in that authentic leadership. Like I remember years back, I was living in New Zealand and I moved back to England, and I was trying to get something set up, and there was no star magic at the time, but I was learning all this healing stuff, and I started this online coaching course, and an old friend invited me to come and speak as a guest speaker at a yearly team meeting for this big company. And I was like, man, like I'm going to do it, but oh shit myself. And I went, I've never done anything like this before. So I went down there and I was stood backstage, and I had a shirt on, my armpits were sweating. It's just like water running out of me. I was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm going home. And so I was on backstage. I was like, nah, Jerry, come on, man, pull yourself together. So I thought, how can I get over this? And I didn't really know how I was going to do it, but I just knew that I had to be honest. So they called my name and I walked out on stage. There's bundles of people there. And I said, hey guys, listen, I have to tell you something. I'm absolutely myself. and I was completely vulnerable. And I just told them exactly how I was feeling. And everybody started laughing. And it broke the ice so much that I had nothing to hide from anymore.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of taken that kind of mindset and that heart set of, if you just tell the truth, if you just be honest and you just tell people exactly where you're at, there you can build from. But if you
Mm,
go out and you try and be inauthentic, or you try and put on a mask, you're building your house or your castle on shoddy foundations. So at some point, cracks are going to appear. You know,
mm,
a house on sand, the sand starts to shake and move. The water comes in, washes a bit of sand out. The foundation starts to crumble, and then you see the cracks in the walls and the window panes, and it's not pretty. You know, so you're better off being honest, facing it from the start, and then everything's going to flow.
bro, you're gonna laugh because like I can't not share this. I had an entire career as a paleo food blogger because I was an active duty Marine, then became a paleo food blogger after I was medically separated from one too many injuries. But I struggled with bulimia and eating disorders my whole life, which was the only reason I became a health food blogger, was to hold myself accountable because I didn't want to be authentic and vulnerable with people. So I end up, to your point, on a New York Times best-selling cookbook tour and about to give a keynote to like 2,000 of my peers. And my ex-wife was like, "You really going to go up there and lie to them again?" And I knew exactly what she meant. I was giving a talk, brother, called The 3 Ways to Use Food to Create Breakthrough Results in Your Life. And I was purging before I went on stage. And I had the same thing. Blue shirt, walked up, was drenched, like looked like I jumped out of a shower and stood on stage. And I didn't know what to do, but I knew I couldn't talk. So I did the same thing. I was like, "I've been lying to all of you. I'm actively bulimic. I'm struggling with this. I'm still clinically depressed. The whole reason I wrote this book was to try to hide in plain sight and blah, blah, blah." And I like, ugh, for, I don't even know how to describe that for the people listening. I just gave the view of like verbal vomit. And I faced every fear that I've ever imagined. I thought I was going to lose my career. My publisher was going to break my contract. I was going to lose all my colleagues. Like everything was out. And I finished sharing all that. And no one said a word. No one said a word. So I'm just staring at everybody, like hundreds and hundreds of people. And then someone from the audience is like, "Thanks for sharing. You're going to give your talk now?" And I had like a mini panic attack because I was like, "What do you mean I can just give my talk now? Like, you still want to hear it? Like, I thought you were going to kick me out of here." And then I ended up giving this talk, and it turned out to be one of the most transformative moments of my life. And that's where I learned, quote unquote, authenticity and vulnerability. So to hear you say that just anchors in what I said before of like the similarities. So, like, thank you for sharing that.
Oh, pleasure, man. I think it anchors into relationships. It anchors
Yep.
into all facets of life. You know, like if you go into a relationship and try and be someone that you're not, it's gonna cracks are gonna appear later. The relationship's gonna fall apart. You know, you just got to be honest. You got to be truthful. You've got to wear your heart on your sleeve, and don't give a flying you know what about what anyone thinks. That's the
Well,
way to be.
yeah, I was going to ask you about this because this is where I was going. I even see it in the day to day. Like, we'll go to a conference. Someone's like, "Hey, good morning, Jerry. How are you?" And they're like, "Great." I'm like, "Liar. Like, tell me you had a bad day. Like, tell me you didn't sleep good. Like, tell me you spilled your coffee, and stubbed your toe on the way out the door and you're just choosing gratitude and happiness." But, earlier there were two things that you said. One, where you were talking about us remembering really comes down to like living from our heart. And I feel like that's a term that's thrown around, as well as authenticity and vulnerability, as it's this thing that people are like trying to look to accomplish or to achieve or to do, instead of this like thing to be. And I'm just curious, like, what your thoughts are for, the person who's like, "I want to live in my heart. Like, I want to be authentic. Like, what do I do?" I hear that all the time and I don't have a good answer. So I would love yours.
It is what it is, and that is it. Just is. It just is. It's the isness. You know, it's the stillness. It's the presence. It's the isness. It's this now moment. You know,
Mm,
you can't try and be authentic. You just are authentic. You know, like you can't try and be it because then you're trying to be something that you're not because you're not authentic. So you just have to be in that moment and just embrace exactly who you are. But then you can build from there and evolve from there and be different versions of authenticity as you grow, remember more of who you are. But ultimately, you just have to get still because it's only in the stillness that you actually really truly get to know yourself. You know, when The echoes are just in the darkness around you. Like next week, I'm going into a darkness retreat. I'm going to Poland on Saturday, and I'm sitting in the dark for 4 days. I can't wait. No phones, nothing apart from me and the silence. For me, that's heaven. For some people, it's like, it's challenging, but getting into the silence, getting away from the noise and just being extremely still is beautiful. At the
Mm,
same time, you can't see that as an escape. Because if you see it as an escape, it means that you're not harnessing the present moment as you are. Like, I'm going into this to get still, to try and go deeper and discover more things about myself and the universe, and to travel and get out of my body and fly. But when I'm walking around in my daily life, I'm still in my head as I'm walking, looking, observing, in the gym, writing a new book, whatever it might be, making a video for YouTube, chatting to you here on the podcast right now. Like, my mind is empty. There's words coming through my mouth, but I'm just still. And something's talking through me, but that's just from a place of presence. And whatever the universe wants anyone listening to this podcast to hear is just going to come out of my mouth. And the same for you. And that's just the way that it is. And stillness and presence is what activates that authenticity, that
mm,
vulnerability, and allows you to be calm in the face of the storm. Because the
mm,
world is full of distractions, and the world is full of things that will try and derail your train and take you off course. But when you learn to breathe properly, you have an empty mind and a calm body and a really still consciousness. When things happen around you, normally there's a 0.25 second window between stimulus and response if you're bouncing around in your head. So people react. But when you're still and you're calm and you're operating from your heart and you're totally present, a bomb can go off. And you're like, huh, cool. I'm just here right now and it's okay. Like, whatever's happening in the world, you can observe it. You can listen. You might want to talk back sometimes, but ultimately you just have to be present in whatever's happening. And that's how
mm.
you become what I would say withable.
Yeah.
And we have to, as humans, be withable. Otherwise, we're like a pinball in a pinball machine, getting pulled and bashed all over the inside of the pinball machine. You go down the black hole at the end because you've just given up, because you're getting traumatized, beaten, and battered. But if you can be in the stillness inside the pinball machine, bing, 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 all these things are happening, and you're just there. Okay, that's cool. I'm just
Mm,
being present in the eye of the storm, cool as a cucumber, in that
mhm,
calmness, in that heart space, in that presence, in that love, in that compassion. But at the same time, being there gentle and soft, but also fierce and ferocious, and ready to act with precision if it's necessary. Because I think some of the things that aren't correct with this world at the moment, especially with the masculine has become too soft.
mhm,
The masculine is on the computer all the time. They forgot how to hunt. They forgot how to go out. They forgot how to strengthen their mind, their body, and their soul, and to be the powerful lions that they came to planet Earth to be. And so men have kind of become more feminine, and some women are becoming more masculine. And this role reversal is dangerous. And being present and focusing on that stillness, a man can really come in tune with themselves, can really come into their own resonance, and start to be the way that they are. And that is just the way that they are, divine masculine beings, not some projection or some version of reality that the outside has taught them that they should be. This gender or that gender or whatever it is, soften and be weak. Don't rise up and fight because you're going to go against the norm and people are going to judge you and blame you, and you're not going to fit in. You're better off being the white sheep with all the others instead of the black one, or the fish swimming upstream. We've got to remember who we are: divine, sovereign, masculine, authentic. And from there, let it unfold. Roll the
mm,
dice, play the game, with no expectation.
mm. I gotta for everybody listening, I gotta say, you haven't just heard it from me. We talk about sitting in stillness. We talk about it's a muscle that you have to flex. We talk about being able to build that relationship. But we talk about how even entrepreneurship is an avoidant tactic to avoid a relationship with ourselves, because there's always something else to be done. There's always another item to complete, another checklist to do. And listening to Jerry, listening to you share it and say it is so powerful. It even reminds me of a book that I love from Scott Carney called The Wedge, which is an entire book dedicated to that stimulus and response gap and how we can train it. and how you can become conditioned in it and not allowing it. But I love how you talk about the pinball machine and all the noise, because I think two things. Number one is like, we are now surrounded by more inputs and more noise than we ever have been in our entire life, right? Like we go back 100 years. I didn't know about the news of 8 billion people. Like if I couldn't read it in a newspaper, I wasn't here. And I heard a friend say this a couple of months ago, and he's like, if you are using a product for free, you are the product. And I look at like the devices we have and all of it. And one of the things that you talk to people about is like helping them remember, but it's also really navigating, I think, what you call all the static that's around and all this noise that's here. And so I think I want to play not devil's advocate, but just for a minute as somebody who uses a stillness practice every day and loves spending time in the dark and alone in silence. Like it's like a dream for me. But I didn't used to. I used to avoid it like the plague. And I had a monk on my podcast who said, if you can't take a poop without your phone, you've never lived a day in your life. And it was so profound because I'm like, we can't even go to the bathroom without our phone, never mind to like be in a relationship with ourselves. But you know, for the person listening to this who's like, yeah, I get it. Like, I want to be authentic. I want to be able to sit still with myself, but I can't turn my thoughts off. I can't stop judging myself. I can't stop ruminating about all these scenarios. Like, how do you guide them, or where do they start in that process?
I mean, a really, really quick, simple hack. Like, if you just look up into your own brain, you can try it now, George, but if you just look up into your own brain and look for your thoughts, they just disappear. They're gone. You've
They do.
created some silence and some presence and some space. It's not going to last forever, but you might get 30 minutes to a minute respite, and you can feel what that peace is like, that silence is like. So if you look up into your brain just for 3, 4, 5 seconds and then start breathing, stay in that space for 5 minutes, feel what it's like to put all of your consciousness and all of your attention on that breath. With an empty mind, you're going to come into that space of silence and peace, and you're going to get a glimpse of it. And once you've got a glimpse of it, you're not going to want to look back. It's like a drug, a positive one, one that it's okay to be addicted to, instead of being addicted to the thoughts in your head that want to take you here and there and bash you up from morning till the sun goes down. But yeah, that's just a very, very simple way of just accessing the present moment real quick.
I love that. I love that. And actually, you said something earlier about the darkness, because I had a friend on the podcast who owns a darkness retreat center here in the US, Sky Cave Retreats. And we talked a lot about like the darkness. One of the things that you said that I love is you're like, I'm going to explore this relationship with myself, right? Like to get a deeper understanding of self and remember things and what I can do. How do you go about, maybe the word is harmony or maybe it's balance, exploring oneself and understanding oneself and then deciding what to do with that? Like where is that line for you of like, oh, I'm building this reflection or this relationship with myself, but then I get to take this version of man and give it away to the world. But like what versions? Like how do you integrate the things that you learn or find about yourself?
I think it depends on what level you're coming in from. So like, a basic level is just really being still with yourself and,
Mm.
and looking at your thoughts, looking at your emotions, seeing how your body thinks and feels in different situations when you're moving through time and space in different situations, different experiences, or in the stillness. Because even in the stillness, the mind starts to trick you. It starts to play programs out. Like I remember in my last relationship, we bought some land in Madeira to build a healing center, and I was over in Madeira like checking it out and doing some stuff with the architect. And I drove up to this kind of like lookout point, beautiful sunny day, and I'm just there looking out. I close my eyes and I start just being in the stillness. And there's all these people around me, like bundles of tourists and stuff, and I'm just there, just pieced out, and my mind is still. And then I see this girl in my head. It's my girlfriend at the time. And she starts walking through this nightclub and she gets chatted up by a guy. This is my mind's just playing this out in my head. So I'm watching what happens. Anyway, the guy takes her in a car, takes her back to his apartment and all that. You know what's going to happen. So I'm just watching this play out, just really curious, thinking like, now if I go back to my childhood, I was My mother was tortured when I was born, and I went into foster homes and then adoption, all this sort of stuff. But rejection was a really big thing for me. So my mind always tries to run the rejection program. And this was just another version of it. So I'm watching this play out and I just burst out laughing. I had my eyes closed and I'm like, oh, fuck, mental. And I'm just kind of shouting this out at the top of this like lookout point. And I open my eyes and everybody's looking at me. I was like, fuck it. Like, I kind of just walked off, but it was such an amazing experience just to watch the mind play that out. I mean, this is years ago now, but if you're still in your own space and you just allow your mind to do things, you can see the programs that it wants to run, and then you can just stop it. And then you stop it, you can rewind the program, you can dissolve it, you can take it out of your head. I mean, our body and brain is a biological computer, so we can exit the programs and install new ones, which is what we do with Star Magic. That's kind of one level of looking at yourself. For me now, I'm kind of like past all that sort of stuff. And I still have deep reflection, but these kind of like main wounds, they're just not there anymore. So for me, when I go in and explore, I want to know about all the multi-dimensional versions of myself. So my son Josh, he's 20. About a year and a little bit ago, he discovered these guardian aspects of several of us brothers. And these guardian aspects were there at the start of the creation of planet Earth. And we were allowing souls down onto the planet. And my guardian name is Astiel, and his is Christian, and there's 6 others. So what I do is when I'm journeying, if I'm on my own, I'm going to go on my own. If I'm with Josh, I might go with Josh. If I'm one of the other guys, I might go with one of the other guys. But I'll go up to the Guardian Council. And then once I'm in the Guardian Council, there's a huge table and you can put your hands into it and it turns into a Stargate, a portal. And then you can travel to different dimensions, different planets, different galaxies. And then from there, I'll go and explore. There might be a mission to go on. There might be some kind of battle that's going on or a war that I need to help people with, or there might be something to rescue, or there might be some kind of artifact that needs to be taken and buried somewhere else in the galaxy. So I like going on little missions like that because they're fun, they're explorative, they kind of like, they stimulate me so much because I'm always in a new space. I'm always somewhere exciting, and there's always challenges that come with it too. So I'm always remembering more on a multi-dimensional level, and all of those skills and all of those tools, I can bring them back to Jerry on planet Earth. And then from there, I can share them with other people that I know and people that I train and different things. It might be healing techniques. It might be planetary grid work, which is something we do a lot of. So there's all sorts of different things. Yeah.
Mm. God, it reminds me of something I wanted to ask you too, because I heard you say this. I don't remember where. Maybe I read it somewhere, but that healers, like coaches, people that do healing, that we often carry the very distortion that we try to fix in others, right? That like I say this to myself all the time. And when did you start to first see that? And do you ever feel like there's a point where like we don't? Or is it this like Occam's razor where we have to keep progressing and we coach it in ourselves? Like, is there ever a finish line? But I would like love your thoughts on that, because I love that sentiment that like we often try to help other people with the same distortions that we see in ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I'm speaking to someone, I'm always like, yeah, I need to listen to that myself, you know, like always, like it doesn't matter. Even if you know it, even if you've reinforced it a gazillion times, it doesn't harm to let it resonate through you again. You know, if you can be humble enough to acknowledge that, it's great, you know, because you can allow that just to go deeper and deeper into your soul, into your consciousness, to just reacclimatize and, you know, reinforce that armor, you know? So yeah, like whether I'm working on someone with some kind of physical ailment, whether it's something mental, emotional, on all levels, I guarantee there is something within the framework of their healing session that I've either experienced myself in the past, or you know, it's something that every now and again pops up for a little bit of, have you really got this, Jerry? Have you really mastered this little piece of you? Just to remind me, yeah, just check in on that next time it happens. So the universe is always speaking to you. It's speaking to you through signs, words, voices, you know, visions, other people. It speaks in so many ways. But again, coming back to that presence, unless you're present, you're never going to hear that communication because it's so subtle. And if you're focused on where you need to go to, even if you're walking down the road on the way to a meeting, if you're focused on that meeting, you're not being present. Well, people will say, but yeah, I'm preparing for the meeting, so I'm present in the moment, getting ready for it. No. If you were present, you'd be focused on the 2 feet underneath you and all the things that are around you in your vision right now. That's presence. And when you're in observation mode, your mind is still and you can hear and feel everything. You can
Mm,
feel other people in the street.
mhm,
Even when you walk down the road, if you're really, really, really quiet and present, you'll hear other people's thoughts. And thoughts that other people have sometimes can be a little bit of a trigger or a reminder or something that you need to remember. It comes in so many ways. I think, as facilitators, which is important to use that word facilitators, because like if you go to our website, it'll be like, Jerry is an energy healer. Well, yeah. I mean, that's great for marketing because people understand they want healing with energy and you're an energy healer. But ultimately, I'm a facilitator and I can't really heal anybody.
mhm,
Only people can heal themselves. But what we can do as facilitators is create an environment so the other human being can self-heal. And so we change the code, we change the frequency, shift the vibration. And then from there, their body can kind of acclimatize and move into a state of stasis where their body's natural healing mechanisms just switch into gear and things start to readjust. But, I can never take credit for that. I can't say, oh, yeah, I healed this human. Even though there's hundreds of testimonials on our website, oh, Jerry healed me. That's okay for marketing again, but really it's not the truth. The truth
mhm.
is I just facilitated a process because another human being came into my field and I was open to doing that. And I created some shifts within their own template, but really they did the work.
Mm. I love your humility, but also your integrity with that, and that's something that took me a long time to really understand. Like the word container is the one that I use, but I think I don't want to brief over this even for everybody listening, whether you're a coach, a consultant, you're a facilitator, you're a breathwork teacher, you're helping people scale their business, you're teaching them marketing. There's a place where your job is to create the container and allow them to meet you in there and help facilitate, but it's their journey, it's their growth. And I love the way that you share that. I want to ask you a little bit about identity, because one of the things that I resonate with is you talked earlier, even right at the very beginning, I could hear it in what you were saying, like really real power coming from like resonance, like in your state of being and not identity driven. Right. And I even think about me as a coach and a consultant and doing this for so long, the amount of times I like became the label, right? I'm a New York Times bestseller. I had a number one app. I'm like one of the highest paid coaches ever. I did X, I did Y, and I created this false world in my brain of these like labels and monikers that became my own prison, truthfully, that became this place that I almost wanted to escape from, yet I created it. And I'm just curious, like, what's the difference between like our power, right, coming from resonance versus identity?
Yeah, I think resonance comes from the soul. It can't come from anywhere else. Even though
Mhm,
your identity does have a frequency, it's not resonance. For me, resonance is deeper. Resonance is like the core. It's like right deep inside. And that is your soul. That's your light body. That's your spirit. That's your multidimensional elements. And the identity is something that our ego creates. Now, it's not that the ego is bad because the ego and positive, like for us to come out and stand on a stage and not give a flying what about what other people think, you need some ego for that. That's beautiful. And the ego can also communicate with source and develop a kind of a relationship there. But when you've got the ego saying, I'm Jerry, I'm 47 years old, I've got 2 children, and, I'm the owner and founder of Star Magic Healing, and I've written all these books and blah, blah, blah. Like, that's an identity that I don't really need to hold on to. You know, for me, many, many years ago, my identity was what got me through life, being a criminal, having all of these different elements of my life that were just dangerous and dark. And for me, I was able to put on a Gucci suit, wear a Rolex watch, drive a Lamborghini, and thought I was the dog's bollocks, and I thought this is all I really want. Fast cars, houses, all of this kind of stuff. But I was broken inside. I didn't realize it because I was just this identity that had come out into the world and thought that I had everything that I wanted. But once that identity got stripped away from me and I went on this spiritual journey, it took a long time, to kind of go from there to where I am now. It wasn't easy, but I was always persistent and I never gave up. And I succumbed sometimes to opportunities from my old life, but then went back on the path. It's like a pendulum. Like the pendulum in the 0 point is where it needs to be, but it swings really fast sometimes. And that's quite good because it reminds you of where you don't want to be. But I think at the
Mm,
start of this journey, the pendulum's like this, and it slowly comes back to the 0 point. And then you get there and you're like, so this is what it feels like. And then you're there for a little while and then you're like, let me just have a little explore. Nah, it doesn't feel very good. But you still go there every now and again because you need to know what it's like to remind you that it's not cool. And then
mm.
those like little expeditions out from the 0 point get less and less and less. And now I pretty much don't have any. So yeah, I mean,
I
it's a journey, man.
I love the pendulum analogy because I feel like this growth, this journey that we're on is never forgetting that we have the range of that whole pendulum. That's what made us. I love how Carl Jung always said that the tips of your branches can only touch up to heaven, to the depth of your roots touch down in hell, right? Like there's this duality, but then also like finding that 0 point center. And then to your point, sometimes I go back to old identity. A new opportunity pops up and I'm like, oh, it's a woman in a red dress, a sheep in wolf's clothing, or a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm like, oh, and then I'm like, oh, no, no, no. My nervous system remembers this. This is not where I want to be right now. And sometimes the world like smacks that pendulum out, but then you have this awareness of that center point, which I love. Um, and I love the way that you talk about it too, because I was going to ask you about like identity, but also the car accident, right? Because it was a car accident that kind of shaped everything for you. Is that correct?
Yeah, back in 2004, I was in a car accident in Romania with my ex-wife and children. I was asleep in a taxi, and
Oh, wow.
Laura and the children were in the back. It was about 3, 4 in the morning. It was early hours, and I woke up and heard a loud crash. And the taxi's like this, boom, swaying from side to side. There's glass and there's wind everywhere. And I just remember thinking to myself, boy, I'm in a bad accident here. We're either going to hit the oncoming traffic or the car's going to flip. And then we came to a stop and there was no other cars on the road. And it just started to get daylight. And I looked at the taxi driver. He was petrified. I looked in the back. My daughter, Alea, was underneath the driver's seat. Laura had Josh in their arms. Their mouths are full of glass. And there was blood dripping down my face and a hole in the windscreen. But I wasn't bleeding. I thought, this is a weird situation. So I got out of the car, looked up the road, and there was 2 ladies. One of them with her ankles cut clean off, and one lying there, both of them screaming. The other one was physically okay. And I looked about 150 meters up the road, and there's what looked like a dead body. And what had happened is the first lady came through the windscreen, hit me in the face, got flipped over the car and died. Second one had her ankles cut off, and the third one was physically okay. And I walked towards what looked like a dead body, realized it was one. And when I got closer, I saw a soul hovering above her body. And yeah, it was like, it kind of just fizzled off. And then, and by that time, I'm looking down over, and it was like someone took an old car to the scrap heap. And, this was my sort of like awakening as such, like seeing this soul. And it just took me on a whole other journey, bro.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy moly. And then like obviously it takes you on a completely different journey. Like that is a massive, massive catalytic moment, right? I mean, you spoke to this earlier where you're like, I had this awareness and this awakening, but it wasn't instant. It was this process of like persistence. Like that was that old life Jerry, which then started this new life Jerry? Was
Well,
that a
that was
moment?
that was old life Jerry that continued on doing what he was doing. And
Mm.
I I ended up meeting a lady who worked for Scotland Yard in the psychic division. She became my teacher for several years. She taught me how to remote view, how to bring my light out of my body and travel, how to get information from the quantum field. Yeah, she just became an awesome soul in my life that helped me so much. So that happened. I had an encounter with a reptilian in physical form. I was still stealing a lot of money from banks, and I was giving the money to charities to build water pipelines and schools and put educational programs in Africa. And what happened is all the letters were coming back, and it was changing me, because I was seeing that actually having this money and actually giving it to other causes, it was actually quite cool. I felt really good, like, being able to help these other people instead of just buying dumb stuff that I thought that I needed. So this started changing me. I ended up moving to New Zealand, met an old guy who taught me how to meditate, had an encounter with some extraterrestrials, got taken to Alpha Centauri. They downloaded the codes that became Star Magic. When I came back to the UK 4 years later, I spent time in meditation in these ancient mystery schools with my son Josh for 9 months, and they showed us how to use these codes to heal people. And then people started coming into my life that needed healing. But around the same time as coming back to England, I got arrested for conspiracy to defraud the Bank of Scotland and holding a false travel document. So I was looking at a really long prison sentence. So anyway, I made a pact with the universe. I said, listen, if you get me off this prison sentence, I promise you, I'll throw myself into this healing stuff. So I was on bail for a couple of years, and my court date finally came. And I went down there. I was stood in a bulletproof dock, and the judge walked out, a man with his two accomplices, two ladies, and one of them had wings on her back. And she looked at me and winked. I was like, what the? And my mind was like, you're never going to get off this. But something inside of me, you don't get that chicken skin. You kind of go all like goosebumps and stuff. Anyway, the prosecution gave their side of the story. My solicitor gave our side. They went out, deliberated, came back in like 40 minutes later. And she looked at me and winked again. And I stood up in this bulletproof dock. And the judge said, listen, we can see you're a changed man. We're going to give you a 1-year conditional discharge and an £80 court fee. You're free to go. I was like, get in there. And I knew then at the time that was it. Star Magic was my life. So, yeah, the universe had orchestrated this whole wild journey over sort of 10 years to take me off of this old path onto this new path, leave the old path behind, and be a completely different new human, and share everything that I've ever remembered with other people and help them power themselves, So yeah, it's been a wild ride, but one that I wouldn't change, but one that I'm glad that I went from where I was to where I am now.
Mm. Yeah, so many parts for me. I love God with all my heart, and I'm like, yep, yep, yep. And I have friends, similar friends, like in the back of a squad car on their way to prison, like, God, I promise I will change. This is the last moment. And boom, magically evidence dropped, and magically this out. And now they, spread their life, doing all this incredible stuff. That's so powerful, man. I'm curious now because I love the word capacity, right? We were talking earlier about, the masculine, right? Which even as a facilitator, I think it boils down to capacity. And I think about that life that you lived, that life that you came from, that, there's a massive amount of work put into being able to manage and live that life, which turns into a superpower when you end up on the healing side. I found, like, you can hold a lot, you've experienced a lot, you've seen a lot. And I'm curious now, because you own and hold these massive energetic containers, right? You have your app, you have retreats, you have a healing center you're building in Romania, you have all of these. But like in that, my question from you, man to man, is like, what's currently stretching you now? Like, where are those parts that are like stretching that capacity that you're facing?
That's a great question, man. Like, I think we have to keep evolving
Mm,
because the container keeps growing.
hmm.
Like you said something earlier about the Carl Jung example with the roots going
Yeah.
down and the branches going out, and it's so true. You like the level of darkness that we've been able to live is like the level of light that we can embody on the other side. And also the level of light that you go into will expose the level of darkness. It's not just one way or the other. We live in this polaristic, universe. So hot, cold, in, out, dark, light, it's both polarities. But as we kind of go on these journeys, I mean, for me, particularly in Star Magic, I mean, we started it in 2016, it's 2025 now, it's 9 years. The first workshop we did was for 4 people, and 2 of them were my pals. And I stood there for 2 days, but for me, it was a practice session. And then we went to 10 people and 12 people and then 50 people and then 200 people. And it just grows and grows and grows. And now we've got our app with thousands of people, like you said, we've trained thousands of people in 85 plus countries. And the container is growing and growing and growing and growing. And the only way that a human being can hold that container is to build multidimensional grids and to hold those multidimensional grids in the quantum. So we've got hundreds and thousands of people, clients, podcasts, whatever it is, training, level 1, level 2, level 3. There's all different things that we're doing around the planet. Our group healings, we've got all these different kind of elements of star magic, and all of them are held in a multidimensional grid. And then for me, what I have to do as a human and as a soul and as a multidimensional architect is go in and clean those grids, make sure they're safe, make sure they're clean, make sure all the energy is flowing the way that it should, and hold that grid. And if I can hold that grid and expand my frequency and my vibration and my consciousness and my light to embody that amount of light that's in the grid, then it's easy. But that comes with dedication and discipline. A lot of people in this world, they want to fly around in the quantum, travel here, meditate there, feel all this bliss powder, but you need to kind of step into reality sometimes. And it's not always about love and light and bliss and all of this beautiful stuff. It's a big element, but ultimately you've got to be able to manage all elements and all aspects. That's the darkness and the light. You've got to bring it into equilibrium. You've got to have that balancing point, back to the pendulum with the 0 point. If you can't manage all aspects of reality, you're going to get, left in the dust. Well, I always look at relationships, spiritual journey, whatever it is, like a mountain. Like, let's say, we're at the bottom of the mountain. There's a few of us and we're like, it's a sunny day. It's, we've got loads of food in our backpack and we're all buzzing about climbing up the mountain. So we start climbing up the mountain. And then after a few days, it gets a little bit colder and it gets a little bit steeper. And everybody starts to look around, maybe blaming this person for this or blaming that person for that. And, so we continue up the mountain. The food gets a little bit lower. It's harder to light the fires in the nighttime. It's getting even colder. People are getting cold fingers, a bit of frostbite, It's getting harsher. And some people, they turn on each other. And, some people may die on the mountain. Some people may turn around and go back down the mountain. Those that turn around and go back down the mountain are only going to go back to the sunshine. Forget what it was like halfway up the mountain, then go and choose another one. And then they're going to get up the next mountain, get up halfway, and the same thing's going to happen. Because it's not about the people they're with, and it's not about the mountain, it's about themselves. The people they're with and the mountain are just reflections of them. Unless they've dealt with their deep wounding, they're never going to get to the top. But the people that get to the top are the ones that, when the going gets tough, they look into themselves for the answers. And they keep climbing. And then when they get to the summit, they can sit there and descend as alchemists, descend as with truth and justice, in freedom and sovereignty, in purity and clarity. The ones that go back down the mountain, they're the weak ones that haven't done the work. And so we have to always, on the mountain of life, on the mountain of relationships, on the mountain of business, on the mountain of health and fitness, because they're all mountains, man, and we have to just know that the mountain is always going to reflect back to us what we are internally. And if we're not prepared to look at that, there's no point even starting, because you're just going to get smashed into the ground every time.
Yeah, there's this, my partner says it better than ever. She's like, once you see, you can't unsee. And here's the craziest part. I've just learned that even me, biblically, like I love Jesus with all my heart, right? I read my Bible all the time, but it talks about how the road to heaven is very, very narrow. And I'm like, yeah. And the more you do this work, the more self-aware you become. I feel like responsibility is one of the sobering aspects that keeps us grounded in truth and grounded in perspective, because, the amount of times I was like, oh, I've made it to the top of the mountain. And I had a friend, Tucker Max, one night, and he's like, yeah, but you forget when you get to the top, you have to walk or fall down the backside, and then you have to start climbing another one. And I was like, touche. And then you have like Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. I love the way that you explain that. And even going very back to the beginning of the podcast, I remember you said the word grace. And that was the biggest thing that was missing for me for so long, is that I would look at my performance on the mountains with judgment instead of my performance on the mountain with grace. I'm like, hey, I did walk down today, but why? What would it take for me to walk higher? Like, why did I look away from that? What are the things I'm pretending not to know? Like, what am I pretending not to see about myself in the mirror? And it was this grace piece that was missing. It was this authenticity with myself, this self-love. And I love the way that you talk about like what we see in the world is just a projection of our own inner world. And I appreciate your perspective on that one because I was going to ask you a question and you basically answered it. And I was like, yep, there we go. That's the answer. I was like, what's the thing that most people avoid or resist around healing that holds us back? And I heard you say it. It's basically refusing to look at our reflection and explore what we find, right? Because, like, for me, they look like symptoms. And I'm like, amazing. Well, what's this one showing me? And what's this one liking like? And I love that perspective. And I have a question about this for you because you coach a lot of leaders. You focus on people who have an impact in the world. And I'm just innately curious. What do you think entrepreneurship, the world, the current state of the world would look like if more leaders actually focused on healing the parts of themselves that we unconsciously project onto others,
Mm.
myself included, right? I think there's this responsibility conversation, but I'm curious, like you have impacted so many people and seen this firsthand. It's not just like an idea, it's more of something that has evidence to it. But what do you see around leaders that, advocate their responsibility for healing by coaching? But what do you think the world would look like or our ecosystem would look like if we really dove into that?
Yeah, it's a really good question, bro. So, like, imagine the business is a wheel, and
Yeah.
the leader is the part in the center. All the spokes feed into whatever that leader is feeling, whatever that leader is carrying, wounding, positive attributes, negative attributes, whatever it is that's going on in the energetic template of that leader is going to feed through all of those spokes and into the business.
Mm,
Well, ultimately, if the leader is in purity and clarity and balanced with the dark and the light and completely alchemized, then that's going to flow out into the business, and the business is going to feel the balance. When one heals, everyone heals. If I shift something in myself, it's going to heal everyone at some level. The people that are closest to me more, and as it kind of goes out like the ripple of when you drop a stone into a pond, it has a little bit less effect as it goes further. But ultimately, the whole collective heals. So if you had
mm,
every single major business leader on planet Earth all healing, all getting into a state of equilibrium and harmonization, then that's only going to ripple out to hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of employees and co-creators. And from there, their families. And from their families, their friends. Doesn't take long, man. Like the positive energy of one human can counteract 800,000 negative humans.
mm,
I'll give you a little example. Like a few years ago, like I said earlier, like rejection was one of my biggest things,
mm,
and trust off the back of it was another. Self trust, man. And sometimes I would make decisions, and I'd always ask other people, "What do you reckon? What do you reckon?" And sometimes I would let what they would share with me override and cloud my own inner resonance and my own deep knowing, because this little piece of lack of self trust was still bubbling around somewhere in my consciousness. What happened a little while back is it's a crazy story actually. It was like December time, and I lost all the paperwork to my car, and so I couldn't drive it. And I phoned the DVLA in England, and I said, "Listen, I need my paperwork." They're like, "Yeah, Mr. Sargeant, we'll look into it." Anyway, months went past. Nothing happened. Can't drive my car. What the universe was showing me is you need to be still, Jerry, and you need to look at something, but I wasn't getting the signs. So the next year, we're on an Egypt tour. We do a tour of Egypt every year in March. And I'm out with some of the lads. So the boat moored up down the Nile, and we're doing some sprint training, and my right knee blew out. Couldn't walk. The next day, we did some psilocybin, and boom, my son healed it. And then I left Egypt, went to Mexico. I was in the gym again. Boom, right knee's gone. So anyway, I got through it, sorted it all out. Then this was like end of May time. Flew back to England, and through June we have all of our like level 1, level 2, and level 3 online trainings. Anyway, I get back home, my knee is gone. Right, I can't walk and I'm hopping around. So I get some crutches, and I'm on crutches. Then my right shoulder goes. Now my whole right side of my body totally out of action. So anyway, I just had to lie down for a few weeks and go into this. Anyway, I had to go to this really deep part in another reality, bring this piece of me into healing. It was profound and beautiful. And I'm lying on the sofa, I'm crying, letting go of all of this stuff. And my phone rings. Hello, Mr. Sargeant. It's the DVLA. We just want to let you know that we're really sorry we've not sent your driving documents, but we've got them ready and we're going to post them out tomorrow morning. I was like, what? So this is 6 months later, But as soon as I found that piece of healing, boom, everything was okay. Knee better, car back. I can move, I can drive, That's that is how important it is to do your own healing. Because what happened as soon as that happened, I got rid of 7 people in our team that had been with me for many years. But these were people that weren't on the right vibration, people that were holding me back. I didn't realize it, but I knew deep inside somewhere. And then as soon as I got rid of them, loads more amazing people came, and Star Magic just went like up 10 levels in like 2 months. And it's grown ever since. And since then, I've not manifested or magnetized anyone into Star Magic that is not on the right resonance frequency. So that was my last little piece of self-trust and rejection that had to be worked through so that I could grow the business. So that means that if I'm the center point on the wheel, and if I hadn't dealt with that, Star Magic maybe it's been stagnant for another 10 years. Who knows?
God, I love where you took that. And that personally, that self-trust piece lands the deepest, for me. My same wounds, right? Rejection, gonna chase. And I even had a moment this week where I was sitting in church and God said, send a text. And I was like, okay. And I wrote it down as my to-do, not open it now and send it. I was like, as my to-do. Didn't send it. 2 nights in a row, drastic nightmares, world ending, genocide, boom, ending with a text message at the end of them. Still didn't send it. Had another thought, wrote down another note, went to church again, heard it. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. I put it off because I asked a friend for feedback. Didn't send it. Next day, get in a fight with one of my closest people in my life about what would have been handled if I sent the text. Sent the text because I was almost forced into it reactively, and everything that I was facing, every fear around it, all of it dissipated instantly, but not instantly in a response. It was literally like silence. I got silent treatment for the first time in a long time. And finally, I was like, what's happening? I feel like in prison. And I prayed this morning. I released it. And I was like, I'm releasing this. Like, I sent the text. I'm good. I'm here. I crap you not. I said it out loud to God. I'm driving in the car. I say it out loud. Within a minute, I got a response to the text that is 1,000 times better than anything I could have ever imagined. But it all came down to self-trust
Yeah.
over and over, and that inner voice and that guidance. And you said this earlier, and I wanted to say it. One of my favorite quotes that I say to myself all the time, because you talk about static and remembering. I tell everybody, I'm like, the devil yells and God whispers. But if you're not quiet enough to hear his whisper, then you're not going to hear them. And the reason I say that whisper is I'm curious, and I want to ask you this as we get close to like landing the plane. Because truthfully, I would do like a 12-hour podcast with you, Jerry. I could listen to you all day. But there's this version of you, this old Jerry, this 2004 Jerry, this 2008 Jerry, right? Where like if you were to take an image, and let's just take mugshots to be congruent to the life that you lived, and like took one today and took one then, I don't think most people would recognize like you're the same person, right? Like it's so drastically different. And I'm curious if you had the ability to like whisper something in the old Jerry's ear, like when he was stuck in chaos or when he was in those moments, like now in hindsight, like what is it that you would whisper to him? Like what would you say to him?
You know what? I don't know what I could whisper,
Mm,
because I would probably just say live.
mm,
Don't hold back. Live to your fullest. Don't be scared. Just go for it. Whatever it
mm,
is, just go for it. Give it absolutely 150% every single day, and don't worry about anything, because everything's
mm.
going to work out the way that it's supposed to work out. Just enjoy every single moment, man. Enjoy every single moment, and just go hammer and tong, hell to leather. Give it everything. Yeah, turbocharged, supersonic.
I love that. I love that. And before I forget, because I am going to ask you one or two last questions, but there's a lot of places to connect with you. Your website is copious. You're on the socials. Like, where's the place that you are the most? Is it Instagram?
Yeah, I mean, starmagichealing.org is the website, but
Okay.
at Sergeant Jerry Instagram, you're going to be able to get access to me. Everything, there's videos going up every day. Through the website, you can get access to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram,
All
TikTok,
of it. Okay.
everything. But yeah, at Sergeant Jerry is a good place. Come and connect there on Instagram.
Okay. And I'm going to make sure I put everything in the show notes. I know I'm like an Instagram person and I'm like, give me my dopamine, give me my quick hit. If I'm on the devil's platform, I might as well fill it with something good that reminds me to get off of it to go be present again. And so for everybody listening, I'll have everything linked in the show notes as well. Star Magic Healing, the YouTube, the Facebook, the Instagram, all of it. And Jerry, we talked a lot about like leadership, but truthfully, an undertone like personal responsibility. And I think all of us, and at least for me that listen to this podcast, that I know, we're all in some degree in service to others. We're all in the game of helping somebody's life be improved or caring about what we have to offer, whether it's marketing or business or selling or scaling or whatever everything. I'm just curious what you would like or want every person who is here to be of service to others to really hear and understand loud and clear about their own healing. Like, I'm curious what your perspective is for everybody listening. Like, if you could impart any wisdom on them, I'm like, what their healing looks like, what the responsibility of it is, the impact that it makes, because you gave so many tangible examples.
Hmm. I feel that unless you're in service, you're not really living anyway.
Mm,
You know, like, what's the point of being on this planet and not being of service? I mean, we're of service to our wives, our husbands, our children, you know, in our close knit circle. We're in service to all of the people that are on the mission with us. You know, I can never really call it a business. I can't call it anything but a mission, a purpose, you know, because we're here to help humanity. And I feel that, you know, we have to walk this earth plane in service as a living transmission. So if I'm in my deepest resonance, plugged into the earth, plugged into the stars, living from the 0 point, everything that flows out from me is going to be from my deepest authentic resonance frequency. And from there, I can just catalyze change in everything that I do, everybody that I come into their energetic fields, anyone that I may give a talk to or a training to, I'm going to impact them on some level. And for me, I just want to purify myself as much as possible, be authentic as possible, speak my truth, not give
mm,
a flying you know what, and just be the man that I came to planet Earth to be. And whatever I discover, share it. You know,
mm,
something that I realized quickly, you know, when we started Star Magic, started going to the Conscious Life Expo in LA and different places around the world and meeting so many people. Everybody's on their own little trip and nobody really wants to share. And that's okay if you want to stay in your bubble. For me, I've always shared everything that I've discovered. You know, people will say, Jerry, you give away so much for free, but I just wear my heart on my sleeve and give it, you know? And that's okay. There's stuff we charge for too. Like everything's in balance, you know, but people always say, you should charge for some of this YouTube content. I'm like, listen, you know, I just need to get it out there. Like it's jumbled around in my consciousness. If I don't share it, I'm going to go crazy. So I've just got to get it out and let go of it. And then whatever happens, happens. And it brings people into our Infinity membership or whatever. But I think being in service, sharing and caring at the same time, as you're in service, you're going to bump into other people, other business leaders. And I've experienced this myself recently. You know, there are some business leaders that are really not operating from a fifth dimensional space. They're still operating totally in 3D. Now, you need a foot in 3D with certain contracts and certain things that need to happen because we're in a 3D world with a banking system. Okay. Hopefully, we're moving away from that soon. But at the moment, you know, you have to have a little bit of a foot in here, but you need to have your resonance frequency operating in a fifth, sixth, seventh dimensional frequency band. Then you can start to anchor these new earth frequencies into the 3D and start to expand consciousness into the 3D. But you're going to meet a lot of people that aren't there. They're going to pretend they are. They're going to tell you they are, but they're not. And for those people, I just don't get involved. You know, I'll just allow my frequency to share the codes that it needs to share. And then from there, I've got to move on. So as a business leader, you need to heal your own wounds. You need to get yourself into a space of authenticity, vulnerability, purity, courage, confidence, moving forwards, taking action. And at the same time, don't get distracted by other people who will try and pull you into their field and take you off of course. So stay not rigid, but kind of rigid, like anchored in your mission, but with ultimate flexibility to bend and weave and move with the frequency and the flow. Yeah, so you've got that electrical masculine and that magnetic feminine flow. And that's the holy grail. You know, you bring the electrical light from the stars down through your body into the earth, and the magnetic frequency from the earth up to the stars. You merge those together, you've got the holy grail. People have been chasing the Holy Grail for centuries, digging up caves and deserts, but it's not. It's a frequency. Okay, so when you plug into that and you bring that out around your body, you're walking in that Christed light. You know, that is the bloodline of Christ. It's an energetic template. And when we hold that frequency, we're in our sovereignty. And our heart is open and we're unbelievable. Yeah.
What a beautiful way to land the plane. I love that. That last section, I'm like, yes, all of that. And truthfully, and I have to own this to be authentic, when you said just look up and try to observe your thoughts, and instantaneously, as somebody who's like a breathwork facilitator and all of it, my mind just went blank and present. I'm like, I'm taking that home with me today. I'm sharing that with my son today. And it's so insignificant in size, but so significant in impact. And I just thank you for sharing, man. I genuinely loved the conversation. For everybody listening, I don't know if you understood half the rabbit holes that I led him down, but I did, and I loved them. I was like on this journey with you. But I think my invitation for everybody listening is to pick up the thing that landed, right? Like that, Jerry, you shared so many tactical, tangible things, both at the emotional level, the physical level, the understanding level, that I think it's an invitation for everybody to take a look in the mirror and pick one that resonates and take action, whether it's quieting your mind or reducing the static or trying to observe your own thoughts or, creating those moments to be in or resonating, finding authenticity, finding vulnerability, catalyzing your own life lessons into things to share, checking your heart. Is it of service? If you're the center of the wheel, what are you sending out to the spokes of that wheel, and like what impact are they having? And truthfully, like this level of play in this self-exploration game and giving 150%. Like there is so much wisdom packed into an hour. I have nothing but gratitude, my friend. So like, thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an honor and a pleasure, brother. Thank you so, so much. And to everyone listening, thank you for being here.
Yeah. And, for everybody here, my only ask is that you connect with Jerry somewhere and send a word of gratitude, send a thank you for anything that resonated, for anything that landed. And at minimum, go check out everything that is there for him, that they have at Star Magic Healing, at his Instagram, on his YouTube. And if there's a vein or a thread that tickled today, I'm going to invite you to self-trust to follow that thread. Because if it resonated in your nervous system and it passed the tickle test, then it was true for you. And there might be something in there for you. So like, take the path to becoming a spiritual gangster. Remember, just like his t-shirt says, like, it's one love, it's one heart, it's one human, and it's family. And I think the more we all learn to love ourselves and love the reflection in the mirror, the more we can explore that relationship and then change the frequency that it gives out and goes out in the spokes of the wheel. And that's the game that we're on. And it's to be of service to ourselves, to then be of service to others. And so, Jerry, thank you so much. For everybody listening, it's been another episode of the Mind of George Show. You will either see me in your earballs, you will either see me in your eyeballs or hear me in your earballs. But this has been another episode, and we'll see you guys soon.